Okay, so we're going to start with attendance. We're going to do an alphabetical order. When I call your country, please say present or present in voting. As a reminder, present means you can abstain in formal votes. Present in voting means you have to vote. So starting with Australia,
Present and voting.
Germany,
Present and voting.
Indonesia,
Present and voting.
Japan,
Present and voting.
Laos,
Present and voting.
Malaysia,
Present and voting.
Norway,
Present and voting.
Thailand,
Present and voting.
and the United States.
Present.
Okay, great. Now, are there any points or motions at this time? The chair would look favorably on the motion to open debate. United States.
Motion to open debate.
That is in order. All those in favor? Great. Debate is now in session. Welcome to the NYMUNL's mock conference. Laos, you can motion.
Motion to open speakers list.
What's speaking time?
1 minute and 10-1. So 10-1, 10 speakers. Do we have 10 speakers?
I think there are 9 of us. So I'll just
8 speakers.
Okay. Any other points or motions? Okay. Seeing that there are none, we will vote on Laos' motion to open the speakers list. All those in favor? Okay. This motion clearly passes. Laos, would you like to speak first or last?
Last, please.
Okay. All others wishing to speak, please raise your placards. Thailand, Germany, Indonesia, Norway, Malaysia, Japan, one more. Anyone else? United States, okay. Okay. Starting with Thailand, you have 1 minute whenever you're ready. Oh, also, sorry. I will try and bang the gavel at 10 seconds, but it might be a little bit annoying because we're on Zoom, so I would just try and pay attention to the timer. All right, whenever you're ready.
Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, the delegation of Thailand stands firmly committed to the principles of humanitarian disarmament to fulfilling our international obligations under the Ottawa Treaty, formerly the Convention of the Prohibition, Use, Stockpiling, Production, and Transfer of Anti-Personnel Mines and on their destruction. These international instruments not only represent legal commitments, but reflect our moral responsibility to protect civilians and support post-conflict recovery. Guided by these principles, Thailand, through the Thailand Mine Action Center, has worked diligently to reduce contamination, improve mine risk, education, and provide essential assistance to victims. Let us move forward with unity and resolve, knowing that every square meter cleared, every life saved, and every community restored is a step closer to a safer and more dignified future. I yield my time to the chair.
Okay, thank you for your words. The chair now recognizes the delegation of Germany. Whenever you're ready.
Delegates, how many casualties need to happen before we realize as an international community that we need to do better? An average of 997 people are killed by unexploded ordnance and each year in Laos alone. The Federal Republic of Germany believes that in order to prevent these unnecessary deaths, we need to improve demining methods and create a specific framework on how to do so. As a nation with responsibilities of war haunting us, we already initiated programs for UXO removal and mine risk education in neighboring European countries such as Poland and France, and even across continents in Southeast Asia, Vietnam, and Laos. One of our main development agencies, the GIZ, is currently focusing on UXO removal, victim rehabilitation, and education in other countries, as we do not have a presence of UXO in our own borders. In terms of future goals, we would like to not only improve our own current methods and specificity of mine action assessments, but we are also looking to globalize Laos and Cambodia's Sustainable Development Goal 18 and create more programs targeted at victim assistance and mental health services.
Thank you. Chair now recognizes the delegation of Indonesia.
Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, the delegation of Indonesia recognizes the grave humanitarian challenges posed by unexploded ordnance in Southeast Asia. This past August, a World War II bomb was found on the island of Yaka, and as a Southeast Asian and oceanic country, we believe the situation must be addressed with urgency, but also great care. We commend SDG 18 as implemented by Laos and Cambodia for its attention to clearance, risk education, and victim assistance. Regardless of a nation's direct impact or involvement, we must cooperate regionally and globally to solve this issue. We are ready to contribute our expertise and have full faith in the UN to be able to successfully address the problem of UXOs. Together, we can turn contaminated land into safe ground for farming, development, and peace. We hope to hear some productive discussions today. Thank you. I yield my time to the chair.
The chair absorbs your time. Thank you. Okay. The chair now recognizes the delegate from Malaysia.
Delegates, Malaysia believes that effective mine action requires both swift response on the ground and sustained regional cooperation. To combat these issues, Malaysia suggests creating a two-pronged plan. First, Malaysia has invested in rapid response bomb disposal units within our Navy and police. Throughout the entire nation, from Penang to Sabah, unexploded ordnance is discovered regularly, yet it is safely neutralized through well-trained teams that work with local authorities. We believe that the UN can and should replicate this model by training and equipping national units across affected countries, so no community is left hanging and waiting for people to lose their lives. Second, Malaysia is proud to chair the ASEAN Regional Mine Action Center in 2025. RMAC has already proven the power of regional hubs for training, victim assistance, and cross-border coordination. It literally saves thousands of lives every single year. We urge that the UN scale up this approach, supporting similar regional centers that pool expertise, share data, and create allyships between neighboring areas and countries. By pairing a rapid response with regional cooperation, Malaysia believes that the UN can turn this fight against unexploded ordnance into a sustainable, coordinated global effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Let's go back to the delegate of Norway. Your time will be reset whenever you're ready.
Apologies. Honorable Chair and fellow delegates, the Kingdom of Norway is strongly in support of increasing measures to stop the pervasiveness of unexploded ordnances in Southeast Asia. The Kingdom of Norway sponsors a training center for training dogs to detect these unexploded ordnances. And we strongly support increasing these measures and bringing more countries together in order to stop this from being so much of an issue. We should be able to pool all of our resources together in order to be able to more effectively solve this issue. We yield our time to the chair.
The chair absorbs your time. Thank you. Moving on to the delegate of Japan, whenever you're ready.
Honorable Chair, esteemed delegates, the delegation of Japan recognizes that unexploded ordnance remains one of the greatest obstacles to peace and development in Southeast Asia. While my own country faces little contamination today, Japan is dedicated in supporting our neighbors who continue to suffer from the legacy of war. Japan has been a leading donor to mine action in Laos and Cambodia. We believe that solutions should combine international coordination and local programs to offer better mine risk education and support for victims, ensuring that survivors have access to healthcare, rehabilitation, and livelihoods. Finally, we encourage expanding Laos's SDG 18 into a wider global framework so that by 2030, no community has to live in fear of hidden weapons from past wars. Thank you. I yield my time to the chair.
The chair absorbs your time. Thank you for your words. Now we move to the delegation of the United States.
Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates. Sorry, one second. The United States recognizes that unexploded ordnance left behind in Southeast Asia after World War II and subsequent conflicts remain a grave humanitarian, economic, and environmental challenge. These remnants of war continue to endanger lives, hinder agricultural productivity, and obstruct the path to sustainable development for countless communities across the region. We cannot deny, as the delegation of the United States, that we played a role in creating this legacy. The intensity of the US military operations during the Vietnam War era, in particular, contributed to the presence of UXOs in countries such as Laos, Cambodia, and Vietnam. We acknowledge this responsibility and affirm our commitment to addressing the consequences. The work is far from over, however, and we must focus our operations to provide more continuous aid to these villages with support to both agricultural and social sectors. The United States is ready to work in hand with affected nations, NGOs, and the international community to heal the scars of conflict and create a safer, more secure Southeast Asia. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. The chair will now recognize the delegation of Laos.
Dear chairs, esteemed delegates, 40 years, 120,000 lives of sheep, goat, and cattle killed in Libya alone. 40,000 species gone in Kuwait. All thank you to World War II. The threat to the animal world is unfortunately a direct threat to us. Today in Laos, the issue with UXO harms all of our population. Delegates, Laos urges you to remember the domino effect. It will hit and affect all of us. Despite the contamination spreading to only some areas, no country and no person can remain quiet. Again, the domino effect. Your attention can stop the problem that has been present for almost 100 years. It is necessary to invest into magnetometers to direct the ferrous metals, as well as sonar for marine environments. Additionally, it is the responsibility of all nations to figure out their most active areas with UXO to place protection for civilians, as well as teaching individuals about the dangers. Wars have already taken so much from our communities.
Delegate, time has elapsed. Thank you. Okay, thank you. That concludes the speakers list. So at this time, are there any other points or motions on the floor? Delegation of Laos.
Discuss how we can get the community involved. Or getting the community involved. And 6-1 for speaking time.
Okay, any other points or motions? Germany?
I'll also do a 6-1 on specific UXO removal methods.
Okay, any other points or motions? Delegation of Thailand?
A 6-1 on responsibility.
Okay, Australia?
6-1 on protections for vulnerable populations.
Okay, I'm going to cap the list there. So seeing that these are all equally disruptive, we're going to start voting in order that they were motioned. So starting with Laos's 6-1 on community involvement. And because there are, I believe, there are 9 of us, so 5 votes for one of these to pass. Okay, all those in favor of Laos's 6-1 on community involvement. This does not pass. All those in favor of Germany's 6-1 on removal methods. 4, this also fails. All those in favor of Thailand's 6-1 on responsibility. 3, 4. This also fails. Okay. All those in favor of Australia's 6-1 on protections. Okay, this clearly passes. Australia, would you like to speak first or last?
Last.
Okay, all those wishing to speak, please raise your placards.
Point of inquiry.
Yeah.
Was this protections for vulnerable communities?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, 6-1, 1 minute. Okay, we'll begin with the delegate of Norway. You have 1 minute.
At the end of the day, unexplored ordinances can only affect places where nothing has been built before. They only affect areas where development hasn't already happened, right? Unexploded ordinances inherently impact undeveloped communities or lesser developed communities much more, to a much greater extent. As such, our focus must be removing unexploded ordinances from the things that are stopping these areas from developing in the first place. The more that they develop, the more that the unexploded ordinances will naturally get discovered, and the more money that people will spend in order to demine these places. As such, it's really critically important that we focus our demining efforts and removing these unexploded ordinances on the places of transportation, on the places of healthcare, that where the development needs to happen first.
Thank you for your words. The chair now recognizes the delegation of Thailand.
Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, Thailand recognizes that unexploded ordinances continue to threaten the safety, livelihoods, and development of communities across Southeast Asia. Decades after conflicts have ended, families still live under daily risk of injury, limited access to farmland, and hundreds of economic opportunities. Thailand also understands that protecting affected communities is not only by removing UXOs, but it is also through UXO education. We want to drive the point that in order to educate the communities and in order to fund these things, in order to remove UXOs, we must get help from outside countries, such as the United States, who have caused and conversely affected these issues. I am on top of the chair.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes the delegation from Germany.
Honorable Chair and fellow delegates, we already know how the detonation of UXO have affected marginalized and disadvantaged communities. Rural areas home to farmers and those less fortunate are of the largest communities affected by unexpected UXO explosion. To tackle this issue, we need to specify the success of assessments and UXO removal, and implement financial rehabilitation programs for these communities, and create mental health programs for community members at higher risk of PTSD and consequent issues. I don't really know how these are working, but thank you, and I yield my time to the chair.
The chair absorbs your time. Thank you. The chair now calls the delegation of Indonesia.
The delegation of Indonesia stresses that civilians, especially farmers, children, and the poor, remain the most vulnerable to unexploded ordnance. Since UXOs maim, not kill, a significant injury can take away a family's source of income, as well as having to pour more money into the healthcare system, leaving people with PTSD and injuries. For families already living in poverty, a single UXO accident can mean the loss of both income and hope. Indonesia believes protection must come through 3 urgent steps. First, expanding community risk education so at-risk groups know how to stay safe. Second, ensuring rapid emergency response to prevent most injuries. And strengthening victim assistance by integrating trauma care, prosthetics, and rehabilitation into national health systems. Implementation of SDG 18 should be concentrated in highly affected states while we push these further measures to everybody. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you for your eloquent words. The chair now calls the delegation of Laos.
It is no surprise that each one of us is guilty of not showing full transparency. In this case, that's not a question. Lives are taken of everyone, which is why when reports are submitted, when people suffer, we need to build maps. We need to talk about it. We need to make sure that every person that struggles and is affected is recorded. We need to make those reports so that people can understand which areas are affected. Additionally, all hospitals need to know how to deal with those cases. Are we educating everyone on how to deal with UXO? No. So how is a person in need of help supposed to receive it? Let's work on the medical sector. Let's work on doing more research to understand how we can help the victims and stop the issue. Thank you. I yield my time to the chair.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes the final delegate in this motion, the delegation of Australia.
Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, I want to directly address the disproportionate impacts to children, specifically around cluster bombs. The delegation of Australia would argue that cluster bombs, specifically because they are brightly colored, are not only indiscriminate but directly target children, making this crime against humanity. I would also argue I would urge every nation to directly sign the cluster bomb treaty. Thank you. I yield my time to the chair.
Chair absorbs your time. Thank you. Okay, this motion has now elapsed. Are there any other points or motions on the floor? United States.
Motion for a 6-1 on past actions and proposed solutions.
Okay, any other points or motions? Malaysia.
Motion for a 645 on possible solution or possible solutions.
Okay. Any other points or motions? Seeing none, we're going to start voting by the most disruptive motion, which is Malaysia's motion, because it contains more speakers. So all those in favor of discussing possible solutions, please raise your placards. Okay, that clearly passes. All those wishing to speak? Or sorry, Malaysia, would you like to speak first or last?
We'll go last, please.
Okay. Everyone else wishing to speak, please raise your placards. Thailand, Laos, United States, Norway, Germany, Australia. Wait, sorry, how many is that? Yes, we can take eight speakers. So one more. Yeah, Japan. Okay. The chair recognizes the delegation of Thailand. Whenever you're ready.
When we speak about possible solutions to the issue of UXO ordinance removal, we must understand that it is a multifaceted issue and problem. We cannot simply solve it by throwing money into the Southeast Asia and hoping that things go right. We must make sure that every step of the way something happens. We need to ensure that obviously mines must be removed. We need to ensure that the healthcare system is correctly compensated and treated in order to make sure that victims get help. And finally, we need to ensure that education is also funded in order to make sure that people are not further affected. Yes, obviously, we need funding by countries that have previously affected it historically, such as the United States, although we need to ensure that that funding is allocated to the correct things and we're not just throwing money. I yield my time to the chair.
Thank you for your statement. The chair now recognizes the delegation of Laos.
Laos realizes that none of this is possible without the financial contributions of richer countries. But Laos also understands that just taking money and saying that we are helping our people doesn't work. Again, transparency. We want the money, and you want to know that it's going to a good cause, which is why Laos proposes all countries that do take the money to be fully discreet about where they spend. Additionally, there is a effective method to deal with UXO, which is magnometers, but there is an issue that sometimes they do get mixed up with other metals, which creates a lot of confusion and obviously slows down the work, which is why Laos believes that it should be our primary focus on magnometers so that we can make sure that they only detect UXO weapons. Thank you.
Thank you for your remarks. The delegation of the United States.
Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, the United States proposes a forward-looking solution, deploying unmanned aerial drones equipped with heat-seeking technology to detect UXOs from the air. This would accelerate the identification of dangerous areas, reduce risks to human deminers, the people who are out working in the fields, as well as allow clearance operations to be carried out more efficiently, as the drones are able to cover much more area within smaller amounts of time. At the same time, however, recognizing that UXO contaminated lands often overlap with regions experiencing food insecurity, meaning that these villages are often kind of fighting two problems at once. And so we fight this with a double-edged sword. This dual approach will both provide security for the people in terms of food, but also safety, knowing that this is a problem that affects them on both ends. We are also open to working with Thailand to create a new subcommittee in UN
Your
DISAC.
time has elapsed, delegate. Thank you. The delegation of Norway.
While new techniques to dispose of UXOs, such as the magnometers or such as using these drones, are great, but they require a lot of capital, like other delegates were mentioning before. This capital will come from other countries donating to countries that are facing this issue. However, it's permanently tying Southeast Asian countries to other countries for funding. That shouldn't be the case. We need to be able to have Southeast Asia be able to support itself. There shouldn't be handouts. We should just be helping people help themselves. As such, I think it's the most critical to establish education centers that are self-perpetuating to be able to train people to do the demining without causing reliance on other countries.
Thank you for a perfect use of your time. The chair now calls the delegation of Germany.
The Republic of Germany's GIZ uses two main methods for UXO removal. Depending on the terrain and surrounding community, we focus on both manual removal and mechanical removal, and we believe these to be the most ethical and feasible methods of removal, and urge all member states to adopt these methods. UXO assessments are not specific. We need to strengthen the ability of our technology to detect these devices and get them out of these communities as safely and rapidly as possible. In terms of victim assistance, we would like to strengthen existing education programs to prevent civilian casualties in the face of UXO. We believe that funding should be allocated to both improve these programs, but also broaden their audience. Financial aid should also be given to individual community members and families whose ability to make a steady income has been hindered. Lastly, we would like to again emphasize the importance of creating mental health service programs across borders to aid victims with PTSD. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes the delegation of Australia.
Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, the delegation of Australia proposes a general fund dedicated to the UN Mine Service. Oftentimes is of the essence, and the resources that we have right now in the UN mine sources do not cover it. Land with rainfall, landmines can sweep off, displacing them, confusing communities who originally realized where they were originally. This is specifically detrimental. Lastly, I specifically hold larger countries, including superpowers, accountable for this. In 2024, the U.S. deployed landmines into. Oh, I'm out of time.
Yeah, thank you for your remarks. The chair now recognizes the delegation of Japan.
The delegation of Japan focuses on protecting vulnerable communities while accelerating UXO clearance. We propose 3 key steps toward accomplishing this. First, expanding mine risk education and victim assistance with special support for children, farmers, and those with disabilities. Second, strengthening demining capacity through new technologies, training, and UN coordination. And third, internationalizing Laos's SDG 18 so that all affected states can set clear targets for clearance and support for survivors. With these steps, we can simultaneously support victims and move toward a more peaceful future. Thank you. I yield my time to the chair.
Thank you for your speech. The chair now recognizes the delegation of Malaysia to conclude this moderated focus.
Delegates, Malaysia knows from experience that unexploded ordnance is not just an idea of the past. It is a danger that people face every single day. On our own soil, we continue to uncover World War II bombs, sometimes in the middle of cities or near extremely vital infrastructure. To meet this conundrum, Malaysia has built rapid response bomb disposal units within our Navy and within our police. These teams are deployed at a moment's notice, working with local authorities to cordon off danger and neutralize threats without disrupting the community. We believe that the United Nations should help every affected country develop the same capacity. By training local specialists and funding mobile disposal teams, the UN can ensure that communities across the globe are protected immediately rather than waiting for external assistance. Swift response saves lives. Malaysia stands ready to share our model. Thank you.
Thank you for your speech. That concludes this moderated caucus. Are there any other points, or are there any points or motions on the floor? Delegation of Laos.
Funding, 5-1.
5-1 on what?
Funding.
Any other points or motions? Norway.
6-1 on making Sustainable Development Goal 18 for everybody.
Okay. Any other points or motions? Thailand.
A 6-1 on responsibility.
Okay, I'm going to cap it there. We're going to start voting from most to least disruptive. Most being Norway's 6-1 on SDG 18. All those in favor, please raise your placards. Okay, this motion fails. All those in favor of Thailand 6-1 on responsibility, please raise your placards. 2, 3. This motion fails as well. And finally, all those in favor of Laos's 5-1 on funding, please raise your placards. Okay, this motion clearly passes. Laos, would you like to speak first or last?
First, please.
Okay. Okay, we'll take 4 more speakers. Please raise your placards. And other speakers, please raise your placards. Indonesia. 2 more. Norway and United States first. Delegation of Laos, you 1 minute.
Let's take a look at an incredible place. One that is absolutely surreal. Are you familiar with Singapore? This country has only been a thing for 70 years, yet it is amongst the most developed, safest, and cleanest. And you know where that came from? From funding. Funding is the only way that countries such as Laos and Thailand can help themselves. In Laos, 1 in 4 people is affected by poverty. We do not have the resources to provide and fix everything, unfortunately. And additionally, it's impossible to just get volunteers to go and pick up the UXO weapons because there needs to be special teams, educated teams. We cannot say that funding is not necessary or a country can fully supply everything for themselves. There needs to be funding. However, Laos can say with full responsibility that all of that funding will go to a good cause. All of that funding will be
Time has
accounted for.
elapsed. Thank you. Okay. The chair recognizes the delegate of Thailand.
The delegation of Thailand firmly stands in the belief that funding means nothing if not allocated correctly. We must all understand that if we do not allocate money correctly to UXO removal, education, and financial rehabilitation, that nothing will go the way as planned. With that being said, although we do understand and agree with the fact that other external countries that have caused these things, such as the United States, need to fund Southeast Asian countries in order to help them, the entirety of the burden should not be placed on these countries. Although, yes, a lot of Southeast Asian countries, such as Thailand, are affected immensely by poverty, we must still carry the belief that the respective country and their government also has to be able to help as much as they can, as the country's issue is within their own country. I will repeat this again. The entirety of the burden should not be placed on external countries. I yield my time to the chair.
Thank you. The chair now recognizes the delegation of Indonesia.
Delegates, We know that the countries most contaminated by unexploded ordnance are often not those responsible for using it, and they are also the ones with the least resources to deal with it. This is a matter of justice as well as security. The UN Mine Action Service has long supported national clearance programs, funding surveys, victim assistance, and mine risk education. Indonesia believes that the funding should be placed in hands of sovereign nations while also facilitating transparency so that each dollar clears land and creates opportunity for civilians. We urge donor states and institutions to support a regional fund under the United Nations and ASEAN, linking demining directly to development practices such as agriculture, roads, schools, and rehabilitation. Thank you. I yield my time.
The chair absorbs your time. Thank you. The chair now recognizes the delegate of Norway.
The delegation of Norway stands for a pooled form of funding. We believe that all money going towards the disposal of UXOs should all be pooled together among all the countries that are facing these issues. So that way all external funding is able to be distributed equally based off of who's most impacted. We also believe this will be the most efficient way to do this. It lets us pool all of our resources together. It lets all equipment be shared among multiple countries, and it can be more effectively used. It lets leading experts who can come from other countries with greater military prowess in order to come into these places and share their expertise on disarming weapons. It lets us use our resources more effectively and takes less of a burden off of external countries supporting these initiatives, and lets Southeast Asian countries be able to take charge themselves with these shared resources. I yield my time to the chair.
Thank you. Okay. Now to conclude this moderated caucus, the chair recognizes the delegate from the United States.
Honorable Chair and esteemed delegates, building off of a point that was last left unfinished, the delegation of the United States is ready to work with the delegation of Thailand in addition to other Southeast Asian nations in need, as well as other larger nations, to establish a subcommittee within UN DISEC to oversee the allocation of funds to target countries in the region. This committee should conduct research in these villages to assess the specific needs of each community, as we cannot use a one-size-fits-all solution for this issue. This delegation also recognizes that UXO contaminated regions often face food insecurity. The U.S. funding will provide parallel support for humanitarian food aid in addition to monetary aid to communities that are most affected. Our aim is not to make the land only safe, but to ensure that families can live and farm without fear or hunger. Thank you.
Thank you for your words. That concludes this moderated caucus. Are there any points or motions on the floor? At this time, the chair would look favorably upon a motion for an unmod. Thailand.
Motion for a 10-minute unmod.
Okay, that is in order. Any other points or motions? Okay, seeing none, we're going to vote on Thailand's motion for a 10-minute unmod. All those in favor? Okay, this motion clearly passes. Are there any points or motions on the floor? Delegate of Laos.
Motion to issue and presentation.
Okay, that is in order. Are there any other points or motions on the floor? Seeing none, we'll vote on Laos's motion to enter presentation. All those in favor, please raise your placards. Okay, this clearly passes. We are now presenting draft resolution 1.1. Yes, you all know what you're reading out, so you can begin when ready.
The sponsors are Australia, Germany, Indonesia, Japan, Laos, Norway, Malaysia, Thailand, and the United States of America. The preambulatory clauses are 1. Recognizing the destructive history Western and other non-East Asian countries have had on the region. 2. In accordance with the past actions taken in Resolution 62/699 of the General Assembly, assistance in mine action. 3. Guided by General Assembly Resolution 68/72. 4. Observing that past actions have not been multi-phased based approaches. 5. Bearing in mind the individual sovereignty of Southeast Asian countries.
6. Alarmed by the negative impacts UXOs have had economically, agriculturally, and socially on both local, national, and regional communities. 7. Supporting current initiatives to dispose of and educate about UXOs. 8. Noting with regret the thousands who have been killed by UXOs and related factors. 9. Having heard direct testimony from the countries most impacted by UXOs.
Operative clauses. 1. Calls for financial support from responsible countries such as the United States of America, support from the country's government at hand, and other external sources such as Germany. Subclause A. Allocating funding will be separated between mine removal, education/research, financial rehabilitation, and general healthcare. Subclause B. Setting country funding based off of the amount of casualties/injuries that have occurred in a respective country and factoring in the amount of UXOs left in a country. Subclause C. Requesting countries that are funding the general costs to help countries affected by UXOs will give however much money is necessary in order to cover costs from respective removal strategies and other things of that nature.
Operative Clause 2 endorses the production and distribution of magnetometer technology in affected villages for detection use by educated staff. Subclause A, encouraging the usage of unmanned drones fitted with magnetometers to identify UXOs. Subclause B, condemning animal-based identification strategies, which include the use of dogs and rats. Subclause C, emphasizing that all estimates on the number of present UXO within a certain border must be averaged to produce the most accurate estimate.
Operative clause number 3 establishes victim assistance programs in order to reintegrate victims into the community by providing financial aid to individual farmers whose land and physical health has been affected, as well as other civilian victims whose ability to rack in a steady income has been hindered. B, provides basic food packages to specific target communities that have been identified by the committee previously.
Subclause C, creating mental health service programs that are both online and in person, meant to aid victims with PTSD and other subsequent mental health concerns. Subclause D, enhancing physical health rehabilitation programs and centers for victims with mild to severe injuries following UXO-related accidents, including but not limited to implementing regular medical worker examination on dealing with UXO victims.
This is me. Calls for the establishment of joint education and research centers in each affected country, with each center being further divided to focus on specific local communities. Subclause A, bringing awareness to the threats posed to at-risk communities such as farmers and children through accessible news articles and incorporation into the school curriculum. B, adopting a community leader methodology to increase local participation within education and research initiatives. C, funding research for UXO removal as well as possible long-term health impacts. D, endorsing local-led initiatives to receive national and supranational funding and other resources.
Okay, great. So that concludes our presentation. Is there now a motion to enter voting procedure? Delegate of Norway.
Motion to enter voting procedure.
All those in favor of the delegate of Norway's motion? This clearly passes. We are now in voting procedure for draft resolution 1.1. All those in favor of passing this resolution, please raise your placards. It is unanimous. This resolution clearly passes. Congratulations. Okay. Now to finally close out this mock conference, there's one last motion we need. So any points or motions on the floor? United States.
Motion to close debate.
That is in order. All those in favor of closing debate, please raise your placards. Debate is now closed. Thank you guys for coming and good job.